Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Mediums Porch, where I've got some truly special people to introduce you to. Beacons of light amidst the shadows, those who help us hear the whispers of comfort in the depths of uncertainty and assist us with our aches, longings, connection, and spiritual healing. This show is here to open discussion and exploration around the power, the process, and the privilege of spirit communication. And today I am your host, and I am featuring a Lilydale medium. This is the series that we're going to be doing up until season begins, where I'm inviting my fellow registered mediums in Lilydale to join us to tell you a little more about themselves, to give information about their journey and what they have to offer you. So step onto our porch, kick off your shoes, and get ready to explore the process, privilege, and power of spirit communications with some of the most extraordinary mediums on the planet. All right. So now, if you haven't heard about it before, Lilydale is an enchanting community in Western New York, United States, and it is where the whispers of spirit intertwine with life and where the beauty of spiritual healing and earthly existence come together. If you listen to the end of our program, there will be more information there about Lilydale, and you can certainly jump on to the Lilydale page, www.lilydaleassembly.org. So now, without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today, our registered Lilydale medium, Connie Griffith. Hello, Connie.
Hello, Kathleen. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction to your program. I am privileged and pleased to be part of the Lilydale Registered Mediums group. I've been here for 27 years now and still learning, still developing my skills in ways that I didn't expect over the earlier years. So it is something that is wonderful, I think, for the visitors to know that and to realize that we are continuing to learn and making those connections with spirit stronger and stronger all the time. What I love about Lilydale is that it's part mediumship and it's also healing, and they have the separate services for those. So people can experience both of those tenets of spiritualism while they're here. And I also like, one of my favorite ones is the thought exchange, where we can share ideas and ask questions. And to me, that part of it is probably one of the most interesting. You get to express your opinion, you get to bring up questions about what spirit means to you, situations that have occurred. And I'm always so curious to hear what's happened to others. There was years ago, I decided I wanted a vacation in Chautauqua. Well, no ad for Chautauqua right now, but I was brought up in the traditional Christian religion. And as a spiritualist minister, I was able to go to the minister's residence and be there for a week and go to the programs. I wanted to see what it was like. Now, in those days, that was many years ago, actually, but the traditional religions didn't talk about communication with spirit. It was not something discussed. So the first day I got my stuff all set up in the little area they give you with a table, and you can put your breakfast cereal out and whatever. And one by one, all of the ministers, most of them retired, who had come years after year to Chautauqua for their vacation, they would approach my table and sit down. Can I have coffee with you, or can I sit and talk to you? I have some questions for you. One by one, they would tell me about their experiences with spirit when they were visiting their parishioners in the hospital and saw someone sitting there that the parishioner identified as the person's brother. And yet that person was not there. That was a spirit connection. And over and over and over, they told me their stories about this. And finally, I said to one who was still a very active minister in a church, I said, so what do you tell your parishioners about this? Oh, well, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. So I want people to know that in Lilydale, we talk about it. The experiences that you have that bring you to understanding deeper and deeper levels of your own spirituality, that's part of what we're here for. That's part of recognizing our full capacity as human beings. That's part of recognizing that we are spiritual beings and that we have that experience here in our human form. And I feel that in when someone sits down to have a conversation with a medium, and I want to say that for me, yes, it's spirit communication, but over and over again, I realize that when people come, they really want more of a conversation for themselves. All right. And it's not so much about, does he really love me, or am I going to get that new job? Or, I mean, it's very rarely is it that. I feel people are coming for a deeper level of connection, a deeper understanding of themselves. And that's what I feel my work is all about. It's really healing at that spiritual level for a person. So, yes, it's communication with those in spirit, and it's also bringing that why are they here? Why are they with us? Why are they seem to be helping us, opening doors or closing others? What is it that we're wanting to manifest in our own lives? And how can we best go about doing that? So for me, that's part of my work.
Yeah, would you say that one of the things you do then as a medium is you help people see the threads of spirituality in their daily life through the connection with spirit, through the recognition of their own souls as you sit with them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely feel that that's what it is. Yeah. And then sometimes it can just be fun and funny. I had one elderly lady, her daughter actually called to schedule the appointment and brought her. And I would say, when I say elderly, she was in her early 90s, and that's fairly elderly. All right.
Sure.
Beautifully dressed woman, nicely put together, and she came in and sat down, and I started on my prayer, and I use a prayer that's my anchor to make the connection, to open my intuitive side. As a medium, I know many mediums will say, well, I just walk around with this, it's always there. And it is always there, but I've learned to be more respectful, I think, of people when I meet them. So it's like in my reading room and when I'm doing mediumship, it's appropriate. I make that link to spirit, and otherwise, it's not necessarily on my radar. All right. So, anyway, she sat down, and I opened with my prayer, and I felt there was someone there, and I brought that connection to her. And at some point, then I pause. I always like to know, does the person understand what I'm saying? Do they know who that connection is? And do they have any questions? And she said, no, I really don't have any questions. I just want to reminisce. I
Nice.
thought, oh, how delightful. All right. So we can invite everyone in. And we had such a wonderful time. She would relate some story about so and so, and darned if they weren't there. And they would give her feedback about what was happening, and it was back and forth and back and forth. And that was just the most down home and delightful hour that we spent together. In fact, her daughter knocked on the door because we weren't keeping track too well
Wrong.
and said, is everything okay? So sometimes it's like that. It's not all real deep and serious, but it's the remembrances. And like she said, my whole family has heard me talk about people over and over, and they're quite frankly bored. So this gives me somebody new to listen to the stories.
Nice.
And so we had a wonderful time. It really was. And there are other times I feel when the communication that I get relates a lot to my own background or my own knowledge skills.
Yeah, tell us a little
Um,
bit about your background.
well, I've always affirmed that spirit will make use of whatever fodder we give them. All right. So if someone has a really good history in art, for example, or background in art, sometimes what comes through in their readings will relate to that for the client. All right. Mine happens to be in healthcare administration, engineering, and construction project management. So that's about as far away from mediumship as you could think would be possible. Yet it's those business aspects that come to play often. So oftentimes when a client has specific questions about business issues, business relationships, the individuals involved with them in a business setting, it seems that Spirit is able to provide me guidance for them to be cautious of this or double check that, or have you thought of the outcome of such and such? It seems that I'm able to provide at least a where to go for them, like open a door that maybe they hadn't thought of before. So I feel that that's one of the benefits that my own background has brought forward. And when a client's sitting there and those things start to come through, I always tell them, I need to let you know that I have a conscious mind engaged, all right? And I'm also receiving from spirit. And if I can discern that what I'm telling you is from my own background and knowledge, I will tell you that. All right. To
Yeah.
try and keep it clear. And then if you know the source, then you can better assess whether that's relevant to you or not. All right. So
That
I
makes sense.
I try to keep that really clear. Do you know what I've realized over the years is even in business, sometimes things would happen or come through, and you'd go, where did that come from? I had no knowledge of that. I had no experience with that. How did that happen? All right. Spirit works with us even in times where we are not consciously evoking that energy or wanting that to be the method of communication. So it happens. It happens
Yes, I
to
love it
everybody.
when it happens. It's wonderful, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. I do too. I love it when it happens that way. So I would say that of many of the mediums, the one skill that I might have would be more of a business background, business nature, business communication. And being an engineer, I found that many men who come for readings are more comfortable with someone who shares a bit of the background that they might find relevant in the everyday walk around world. All right. It's not
Yes.
really that different, but it seems to many people that it is.
There's a bit of a mindset, right? And so like if you're getting a
Exactly.
spirit that has had a life here in business or engineering, you would understand their presence. You would be able to give the accurate evidence and the vocabulary even because you've worked in that field. So it would make it a
Right.
lot easier for the sitter to receive that information and really feel like you painted them back to life. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
That's 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 a good observation. Good, Kathleen. I really feel that's what happens.
Mhm.
But it's, mediumship is mediumship, and those in spirit, if you can open and make that connection. And I tell my sitters, it's really a three-way communication. We've got me sitting here wanting to listen to and receive the impressions from spirit, and many of those are kinesthetic. So I get a feeling, all right. Some of them are really more mental. It's, it's like a thought comes into my mind. It's like, oh, I know that's not me. All right. And sometimes it's really, I hear, all right. And it's also the person who's sitting there. They have to be open to that. They have to be able to recognize that. So it's getting filtered. Remember that old game that we used to play as kids, the gossip game where you whisper something to the person sitting next to you and it goes around the circle? Well, it's kind of like that. I'm hearing from spirit, I'm wanting to processing it in my own knowledge base or my own sense and providing it to those who are here. And so they're then processing it and receiving it back. What I love, and this happens oftentimes, and I love it when it does, is when I get something I have no idea what it means.
Right.
And I might say it to the person. I said, I'm getting this. And it's like, how strange is this? And I tell the person, and they start laughing because they know exactly who it's from. I'll tell you one that happened not long ago. I had a client sitting there and I tuned in and I felt I had her father. So sometimes those in spirit come through. And over the years, we've learned that, the mothers usually come through in one way, the fathers usually come through in another way. All right. And so I felt I had this woman's father. And she was fairly elderly, all right, but I felt her father there, and I told her that, and she said, "Well, it would be lovely to hear from him again," you know, and I'm getting him there, and I heard him say, "I am sorry, but I could not stay and continue to put you in danger." It's like, wow, okay. And she kind of like jerked back and she said, "All right, I think I can accept that." And then I looked over and I said, "I'm seeing this really big car." I said, "It looks like one of those big old Cadillacs, those huge mammoth Cadillacs that
Yeah.
years and years ago that they had." And I said, "It seems to be dipping down at the back and then it goes up and it dips down and then it goes up." She started laughing. She said, "That's my dad, all right." I said, "Well, how does that relate?" She said he had a big old Cadillac, and they had hydraulics. So if you had something really heavy in the back of the car, it would level it out so it was more stable. And she said, and he was a bootlegger.
There's
I was like, oh,
there's the up and down, right? A little weight in the back on that one. Yeah.
oh my gosh. I mean,
Oh,
I laughed and she said, there couldn't be anything more perfect for him to show me to identify himself. And he did have to leave when she was a young teen because there were situations. And I said, "But he provided for you, didn't he?" And she said, "Yes, he did. My mother never had to work. He provided for us."
yeah. And so he felt he was putting her in danger with that practice of bootlegging.
Well,
And
I don't know what other situation there was around, but he had to exit stage left, so to speak.
wow.
And yeah, so that was a very interesting, things like that. How can you predict that? How can you possibly
Exactly.
have an inclination
Yeah,
of
because
that?
it's
That was
totally
so funny.
outside the scope of your, sure, you
Right,
understand the languaging and you understand the premise, but the experience itself is outside the scope of your experience. So
right,
it's fascinating
right,
because Spirit does do that, right? You just pointed out two opposing examples. You pointed out the example where Spirit comes in with their intelligence and says, okay, I know you can do this. You'll get the vocabulary, you'll get the language and the information, and you'll be able to identify this easily. And then they'll come in with something else where they can just be as descriptive as possible, right? And then you
right.
end up going, oh, here it
Yeah,
is. So really, in the end, what it shows us is if we can be as broad and open as possible, Spirit's
that's right.
intelligence will come through. As
That's
long as
right.
we stick to our being ourselves, they know. You know, would you believe? I've heard it said that a lot of mediums hold to the fact that Spirit comes to the medium that will deliver the message the best. So the spirit world has an intelligence, has a plan, shall we say, and they go through and they find the medium and they align and help, navigate things so that their
Right,
sitter, the person they love, will sit with the right medium. Because it sounds like
right,
that would be ideal, right?
right.
Yeah.
The best readings sometimes I think are those when people have selected the medium themselves for whatever purpose or reason. All right. I've
Okay.
had people select me because my house number is 22 and 22
Yeah.
is meaningful to them. All right. Or maybe the name, there's an association with a name, or they like the color of the house, or other different things. They'll walk by and that's who they want to go to. Sometimes the more difficult ones are when someone schedules on behalf of another person,
Mm.
or you have people who are bringing a whole group and like they just plug in the names with whatever appointments get scheduled. It's like, okay, come on, spirit. This is the person who's here now. We'll, need to do this for
Right.
them. So you open up to that. I affirm that everyone, you can take a message to anyone. You can deliver the message, but the ability to have it understood in its full component, that sometimes gets a little constrained if the person's not open, or if it just doesn't seem like there's a good sync between the medium and the person they're sitting with. So I like it when people choose me.
Of course. And I know that you studied you went through the fellowships of the Spirit program, their school program, and as did I.
I yes,
And
I
one of the
did.
things that
And
you bring up here is the fact that it was brought to our attention, and ethically it aligned with my morals, as I'm sure it did with yours anyway. But ethically, it was brought up that, say you sit with someone that has been plugged in like that, and you're not getting a connection, then you do the right thing. You refer out, or
absolutely.
you're authentic with them and you're honest, and you're just saying, for whatever reason, I don't think I'm your medium today, right? And then you
Right,
do
absolutely.
support them to find somebody else.
Right,
So that's one thing I think value wise is really important, to know that your medium isn't just going to sit there and bully you into taking the information.
right,
Yeah,
right. I like to give it enough time to feel that if I'm not making a connection, that it's like I'm not blocking it for some reason. You never know. It could be the person wanting to come through from spirit. I'm not getting a clear channel. So I like to give it, a few minutes for that to happen. But most of the time, you either get a connection or you don't,
right.
you know,
And you know that
and,
previously, right?
yeah, so 5 to 10 minutes and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I'm apologize, for you scheduled, you came here to Lilydale, and yet I need to refer you out. And it's difficult at times when the mediums are all booked. All right,
Right,
that's difficult.
right.
Of
Because
course, I think, these days with the Zoom communication we have, while it's wonderful to visit Lilydale, and I think there's just a special energy here during our season that people can come and have a beautiful day and a wonderful spiritual experience. Still, there are times when that's just not possible. And so, make an appointment by Zoom. And the same thing holds, if it's not working, it's not working. And I refund the money. So, yeah. The You brought up the fellowships, and I feel there's a lot of different paths for mediumship. Many mediums seem to have the family background that says they grew up with this as a child. They began to identify spirit from the age of 5 or 6 or whatever. And then there are those of us who had never heard of mediumship or spirit communication, had no idea what that meant. And yet, somehow, I feel that if you allow yourself the open mindedness, or for me, it was the curiosity, it's like there's something there that I don't know about, and I want to find out. I want to find out what it is. For me, it was the curiosity. It got me to fellowships. I took that weekend class. They called it spiritual insight training. Now I think it's a 4-day one, but so I took the 2 weekends. It's like I was just really curious. In fact, I paid for a friend of mine to come who is a psychologist.
oh,
Here you have an engineer. She was my best friend. She's a psychologist.
right,
And I said, if something's kind of hinky with this, we'll figure it out, right?
right. Between the two of you, right?
Between the two of us, we both loved the program. Both of us loved the program. And I was able at that point in my career and in my life to continue on to do the studies and go to the school. But it wasn't until I was finished with the first year of school that I realized this was actually a religion and it was a church.
Right.
All right. So to me, it was a very interesting thing to learn about myself, things that I had never learned in school. And certainly in all my college and my graduate studies, I'd never come across any of this, to understand what this is that I recognized had been happening throughout my life, throughout my life. But there was
Exactly.
no name. We couldn't label it. We didn't know what it was. So I just got real curious about it. And, I know now that when it's like, be careful what you think, be careful. Because I had said to myself, and I was working at the St. Vincent's Hospital in Erie at the time. And I had said to myself, wow, I really would like to take that program. I really would like to do that. And so the first year I managed to do that coming on weekends through the winter. All right. And then as it got towards spring, people were talking about Lilydale, and I had never experienced Lilydale. I had never come here to see what it was like and have that experience. And I said to myself, wow, I'd really like to be able to spend a summer there and experience that and know what that was like. And boom, things changed around my work.
No
And I
kidding.
was able to take a sabbatical at full pay.
Wow, nice.
And I came to Lilydale and I spent the summer here learning more, doing the healing services. It was beautiful. It was just a beautiful summer. It really was. And I never did the mediumship. That was I wasn't too sure about I wasn't too sure I really had a great appreciation for that, but I love doing the healing
Mm,
and meeting people and talking and inviting people to come into the house I rented after the morning meditation and talking with them. So it was a wonderful life enriching experience.
mhm.
And then it continued on. It's like, well, all right, I guess I'll be here for another year, but I don't know about after then. And I was sitting in meditation one morning and spirit, I was confused. I said, why am I still here? I've been putting out my resumes. I've never had to seek a job in the past. I've always been recruited for jobs. So
Okay.
this was like something brand new for me. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, but I've got the resumes out there. I don't know what's happening. And I heard very clearly, what you resist persist.
Oh, so true.
Oh, what am I resisting? Oh, doing mediumship. So
Oh, I love it.
so I started serving at the outdoor services, and it was you step into that energy and
Mhm.
it's like a whole different level of inner power. All right. You step into that energy as a medium. Your purpose is to bring healing messages. Your purpose is to serve. Your purpose is to demonstrate spirit communication. And there it is. All right. It just flows. All right. And it's like, okay, all right then. And then the end of that year, I got a job. I moved away, but I bought a summer house.
Just to keep that plug in the ground there. Yeah.
That fall, I was back here living full time in Lilydale in a house with no heat,
Oh my
no
goodness, really?
insulation,
Oh, wow. Wow.
50 amp electric power. So a lot of renovation has taken place
I
since
mean, a
then.
trailer has more than that, right?
That's right. All right. But that's what got me back here. And I really feel that, the spirit doesn't force you truly into something in your life. But I feel that when you're ready, it's like that path is the one that you're going to be taking. You open to it, and instead of beating yourself up about why I this or that, it's like, all right, take a deep breath and then let's move into it and let's just see where this goes. And just know that we're going to be protected. Just know that it's going to work out okay. But you got to tell them what your expectations are.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Because
for
thoughts are
years,
things.
I worked as a full-time registered medium,
Hmm.
doing all the outdoor services and doing some readings, but I also had a full-time job and I traveled for my work. So it was like both of those kinds of things. Over the last about 10 years now, I've been retired from my full-time work and I'm doing mediumship now as my full calling. So what had been, I would say, my sense of service or my spiritual service became, now this is my life. This is who I am. This is what I do. So this is an interesting new, I'm going to say a new path for me over these last 10 years. I don't know how much it'll continue, but it is for a while. All right. I have cut down a little bit. Now I try to keep to a 3 day a week in-person schedule in the summer, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. I still am available by Zoom, but I try to keep to that during the season. And then that gives me enough energy and time to do the public service work that registered mediums are required to do for Lilydale. So
Mhm.
we don't work for Lilydale. That's something I hope people have got by now.
Right.
um, but we do have a lot of public service that we do. And that's to let the visitors, the casual visitors, know what it's all about so that they too can have that connection to spirit while they're here and realize that there's something there for them. Yeah.
Right. And so for our listeners, our season this year starts June 21st and it ends September 1st. And during that time, this is when you'll be able to see Connie at the outdoor services that she's speaking of. And that can be happening at Forest Temple. It can be happening at the Inspiration Stump. It can also be happening in the afternoon at the auditorium during the church service. They often have a medium at the end. And then there's opportunities to get mediumship demonstration, witnessing that for individual. Are you doing any all message services, Connie?
I'm doing one Sunday all message service. I don't remember what date it is. It's all
Okay,
on
so
my
we can look
calendar.
on your website for that, though. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah.
an all message service is the opportunity for our visitors to come in to the auditorium, pay a small fee, and to witness one medium for a whole hour doing that
Right,
service. So you can
right.
check out either in the catalog for Lilydale or on Connie's page, you can check out when she's doing that. She's also set to do, you said you were set to do a couple, well, 2 weeks. Are they together the 2 weeks or are they separate in the Forest
Yeah, there are
Temple?
2 weeks. I think it's the second and third week of season. I'll be doing the Forest Temple. I'll be
So that's
chairing
the
that
chairing,
service.
right? So you
Mhm.
negotiate and help people come on and off the
Right,
platform,
right.
right?
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
serve too if
And they
there's
can
any.
see our native plant garden. So
Oh, that's right.
that's right. That's one of the things that I have a particular interest in is native plants, and the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy sponsored some small grants, and the Mediums League took advantage of one last year to put in a small native garden plot. So we'll see how it goes this year. I call them expensive weeds, but they do have a good purpose. So
Yeah, they don't have that kind of tropical bloom going on. They have
no,
that local
begonias
feel.
they are not, but
Yeah.
and gardening has always been an interest of mine growing up, kind of a country girl. And I became a master gardener in Chautauqua County a few years back and was
Nice.
active in that for quite a few years. And things go, come and go. You learn, you develop other interests. So that's
So we'll have to
how
make
it's
sure that
evolved.
we check out that garden. I know that you have contributed so much to Lilydale. You've served on committees for years, and I'm not even going to go through the long, exhaustive list of committees and number of times you've returned to the same committee to serve. But I am grateful for the time that you spent with me, teaching me the ropes last year when we were on the Mediums League. You were a wonderful guide and a real big support. And I do very much appreciate that, Connie. That was really nice because I'm a little bit of the new girl on the block when it comes to that whole thing of the administrative aspect of Lilydale. So that was wonderful. So yeah, you're very grounded. You're very confident. You're very experienced. I loved
Thank
listening to
you.
you today. This has been wonderful. I got to see more of you, get to know you a little better. And is there anything else you want to share with our audience? Obviously, you can reach Connie at conniegriffith.com, and we'll have that posted below. But is there anything else you want to share before we sign off here today, Connie?
No, I just want to tell people thank you for listening and please come visit us in Lilydale. I think you'll have a delightful experience. And Kathleen, thank you so much for your kind words. It takes a village, to keep a
It
village
does.
running.
It does.
We're
It
all
really
here
does.
for the purpose of healing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Connie. And until next time, dear listeners, I want you to walk in the light of truth, dance with the spirits, and make sure you visit us this summer. All the best. Stay well.